Hey guys, welcome back to another Boku no Roblox Remastered video on the channel. My name's Noah, and today I'm going to be giving you a guide for Explosion on Boku no Roblox Remastered. Today I'm joined by Josiah, who you saw in the last video on his account, not mine this time. And we both have Explosion to demonstrate some things. Now, because his account's low leveled, he won't be able to do as much. But we're just going to get straight into the video. Okay, so obviously the first thing that you're going to want to get if you have Explosions is Gauntlets, because it enhances your abilities and makes you stronger. So let's actually go ahead and see what the skills are. So F, like I just said, you need 1,000 agility for it, and it's all during rush. User's body starts sweating excessively, boosting their power and explosions in combat. So basically it just makes you more powerful. Q is just a normal explosion. Z is a chain blast, which is a series of explosions. X is an AP shot, which is a concentrated explosion that does a lot of damage. Ground blast is your C move, and it's just a big group of explosions. And V is your howitzer impact, which is obviously your strongest move. So now we're going to be demonstrating on the moves that I actually told you guys about. So the first move is actually going to be Q. Q is your just regular explosion that you can get right off the bat if you get this as low leveled. Just like One for All, you get your punch and so on and so forth. So all you do is press Q and it does a big explosion right in front of you. It does high damage depending on your level. It's definitely good for combos, but it's not your best move for sure. Now our next move is going to be Z, which is basically Q but more rapid fire. It is about 4 to 5 explosions with the same damage as Q would do. So if Q did, like, let's say 5,000 damage, your Z would do about 25,000 damage. So that's our Z, and it does a lot of damage. It can definitely take out a big army in a raid, and it's definitely one of the best moves to combo with as well. And the next move is also really well. The next move is an AP shot, which is a concentrated shot that Boku uses in the anime, and he basically just makes a ball with his fingers and does a concentrated shot. And this shot does go a while, so you can actually kill up to 2 weak villains at a time with it. It does high damage and is definitely good for aiming, but the other ones you don't really have much control of because they just go straight to the ground. The next move we have is C, which is basically your Q, but bigger and stronger. So it's kind of like Z, but just one big blast. So when we press Q, it does it all around us. We're dead center of the explosion, so it's good for defense mechanisms, but it is not a good comboing move because of how high the cooldown is. And that brings us to our next move, which is V, which is also not that good for combo. It's mostly for tanking and taking out bosses. So I'm actually going to demonstrate on Tomura how to use it because it is very difficult to use it correctly. Okay, so this is actually how you use howitzer impact correctly, and it's kind of like an aerial strike. All you need to do is double jump because you can fly with the explosion quirk, and once you get up, you're going to stop flying, look down at your target, and press V. So now you're going to be slowly going down with your howitzer impact and aerial shot them, and they cannot hit you whatsoever while you're in the air. Now let's just kill him so he's not in our way for the rest of the video. Okay, so now I demonstrated all of the moves on my account, which is kind of high leveled compared to Josiah's, but now we're going to be switching over to his account to show you what it's like for an average 1,000 leveled player.
What's up, guys? We're back here at Tom on my account. I'm not pure level 1,000, I'm level 1,368. I can't get a perfect 1,000, it's kind of hard to stay at 1,000, but I'm going to be showing you all of explosion moves without gauntlets and with gauntlets. Now for both of these I'm going to be using F because most of the time you will be using F if you're in higher level raids and stuff. So for the Q, it does an average of 4,050 damage. Now let's let him back off of us. Now for our next move, it's Z. We're going to see how much that does to him. 3,600. Now we back off of him now. We go for our X. And the V is probably going to be the hardest one to pull off because Tom really wants us. He will chase us, and with our howitzer impact, it's going to be kind of hard to avoid. So now for our X, that does an average of 5,850 damage. So let's kill Tom real quick. And we took out a couple weak criminals with that too. So let's go back up on him and do our C once again. That does 6,300 damage to him. We're gonna back off of him, let him reset, and then we'll fight him again. Now, for our howitzer impact, we're just going to simply be going into the ground. We're not going to do any sweet combos or anything. So that does 8,100 damage, and that took out several criminals. So that just shows you how much damage and how big the area is that howitzer impact controls. Okay, we're back without the gauntlets, but our F is still on. So for our Q, it's going to be 3,600 damage. So now we have our Z here, which does 3,150 damage without the gauntlets. For our C, that does 5,850 damage. We're back with our howitzer impact. I had to leave the server because there were several guys farming Tom. So now that we have Tom alone, we're going to be testing howitzer impact, and it does 7,200 damage. My initial thesis was that it wouldn't be affected by the gauntlets since it wasn't a very physical, direct attack like the explosions are, but it actually does 1,000 less damage without the gauntlets. Now, if we always aim for using your F, even if it drains your stamina, it's so vital. Because if we do something as simple as the explosion, it does almost 1,000 less damage, which is, in the most intense raids and situations, 1,000 damage can decide life or death.
Hey guys, it's me, Noah, I'm back. Now you may be wondering why we were showcasing how it did at level 1000. That's obviously because you can start going into raids at level 1000, and we want to show you why it's kind of good for raids because of how much damage it does. It's really good for raids because you might be able to take on multiple armies at a time because obviously it does a lot of aerial attacks, and it does more area spread damage than most quirks, and it also does pretty high damage for only level 1000, and that's obviously right when you get into raids, so it's very good for raids. It's also very good because it was showcased in the Gymnasium quirk video, and that just proves that it's all around a good quirk no matter what situation you are in. It's good for farming in the gym, it's good for farming bosses, and it's also good for raids in PvP. So now I'm going to be showcasing how good it is against all the bosses. So I'm just going to speed run through this. I cannot kill All For One, and it's going to take me a while to kill Overhaul, but it will be a little sped up, not too much though. So the weakest one we have first is, of course, President Mike. Then we'll move on to Midnight and so forth. So first we have President Mike. So we can use a lot of the moves on him. He is one of the weakest bosses. So that didn't take that long. I only comboed with my Q, my Z, and my C. So obviously those are some of the moves that you get right away. So it will be very easy to kill President Mike if you want to be a villain. Now obviously I have 84,000 fame, so I'm not really considered a villain, but this is just how it does compared to all the characters that you can face in this game. Alright guys, now we're right by President Mike, and right here is Midnight. She is a teacher from UA, and her quirk is Somnambulist, and I'm not sure how Explosion's gonna do compared to Somnambulist, because Somnambulist can, of course, sleep you, and just all around combo, because of course I'm going to be testing this with the gauntlets on, because we also recommended that you actually get the gauntlets, so you probably would have gotten the gauntlets if you have Explosion. So what I'm going to be using is the same QZX combo for most of the bosses and see how it does. So our Q doesn't do too much damage to her because of course she's a boss, and compared to Tomura, she's one of the better bosses. So I did my Q, Z, X, and C. Of course, it took a little bit more than it did for President Mike and Tomura, so we're just going to go ahead and move on to Tomura as well. Okay guys, now we're at Tomura, and I'm going to be trying to use the QZX move again, because those are the moves that you get almost right off the bat. So Q doesn't do too much damage to him, our Z does a lot of damage, and we didn't even have to use our X. Tomura is one of the weakest boss other than President Mike, so obviously it didn't take too much to kill him. Now, obviously, some of you guys won't be able to kill these bosses depending on your level, but if you are, then these are the combos you're going to want to use. So we're just going to start off with Q. we'll go ahead and use Z. Our AP shot does a lot of damage to him, and then hopefully finish off with the C. Yes, so Q, Z, X, and C is definitely a very good combo for this quirk, so I highly recommend getting those moves above Howitzer Impact, because that one you're not going to be using too much against bosses. You're going to want to use it when there's more weak villains and armies around you. Okay guys, so the next boss we're going to be facing is Muscular. His quirk is Muscle Augmentation, which is not a very ranged quirk. But it does do it does like aerial damage, so you're definitely going to want to use your range attack for this one and stay as far away as possible, because he is one of the stronger bosses. So first I'm going to be using my Q, which isn't that far ranged, but it's definitely good to get the first hit on him, which you won't have to be far away from, because obviously he won't attack you yet. So the Q, Z, X, and C combo did not work as well as it did for the other bosses, so you might have to do it a couple more times than we did for the other ones. Okay, so for Muscular, at my level 2500, you're going to be wanting to use the combo that we have been discussing for the last few bosses twice, and then it should be able to kill him. I'm not going to be using Howitzer Impact on them, because I don't really like using Howitzer Impact in the regular map. I like using it in raids to take out big armies. So the next boss we're going to be facing is Gang Orca, which is also for the villains, if you want to be a villain with explosion, but I do highly recommend being a hero, because you usually do get more cash and XP from killing villains than you do from killing heroes. So we're going to be trying different combos, and we want to stay our distance, or we want to try and like dodge his moves, because basically he just shoots a ray of damage, and it's very effective, especially for my level right now. So all you want to be doing is circling around him, and don't let him get a single hit on you. So yeah, so all you want to do is hold down Shift, you want to hold down D, and you want to hold down W for Gang Orca battles. So he cannot get a clear shot on you. Okay, he got a clear shot on me, so this is bad. Okay, so all that it took was a Q, Z, X, C, Q, Z, X. So not quite as strong as Muscular was. So you're just going to be using it twice without the C, but of course, if you're lower level than me, you're going to be using way more combos than I am. Okay guys, so the next boss we're going to be fighting is a villain, of course, named Nomu. Everybody knows him, everyone fears him in the anime, and so Nomu has very short-ranged attacks. He does not have any range attacks. It's kind of like One for All, but he can only stomp. It's basically Gigantification moves. So as I'll show you the Gigantification moves he does the X, which is the stomp, and he does about kind of like the V, but not really. He can also jump really high, so you definitely want to stay on the ground, because he has more of the advantage in the air. So we're just going to hit him with a Q, and it's almost the same exact thing for Gang Orca. You don't want to stop moving, because then he can just start comboing you, and there's basically no escape. So what I'm going to be doing is the same moves we've been discussing this whole time: Q, Z, X, C. Okay, so all it took again was the QZXC, QZXC, QZX. So you had to use it about 3 times without the C at the end, because I'm not quite high enough level to fight these kind of bosses. The next boss we're going to be fighting is Overhaul. Now I'm going to leave out the last 2 bosses, which is All Might and All for One, because I'm, of course, not anywhere near strong enough to fight them. So for Overhaul, you have to do a very specific thing, and you want to keep your distance while also going near him and around his moves, because his moves are straightforward except for his disassembling world, and if you stay your distance, he cannot use his disassembling touch on you, which will almost insta-kill you. So what you want to do is basically press your Q, run until he does his first move, then do your AP shot, then get close to him and do your Z. It's very confusing, but I think it will make more sense once I demonstrate. So I do the Q, and then he's going to do his Z almost right off the bat. Then because we're ranged, we're going to go ahead and use our X. Then now that he's here, he's going to run into our Z, which is implied with his close range attacks. Now we're going to use our Q because he's used his Z again. Then we're going to use our X because he just used this assembling world, and we're just going to push him back real quick. Then we want to use our Z because he's going to run into it. Our Q, and just basically repeat this. Q, X, Z. So you're going to use our AP shot there. Then we're going to use our Z, because he's just going to run right into that. Alright, then we use our Q. Then we should use our X then. Then our Z. Okay, now guys, we are back at Overhaul. He's at 1 HP, and all I've been doing is the Q, X, Z moves. And now I'm just going to finish him off with Howitzer Impact, just for the fun of it, and to demonstrate how I'm doing the aerial attacks. So you want to go up, like I said, drop, aim down, and then you want to do your Howitzer. Alright, so now let me demonstrate what it should look like. Alright, we're heading down to the ground. And Overhaul is now dead. Now, he gives you a lot of stuff, so Explosion's very good for actually killing him. Guys, that concludes our video of Explosion Guide. Now, it is very good for the Gymnasium farming, it's good for boss farming, and good for raid. So all around, Explosion's one of the best legendary quirks in my opinion, and I do highly recommend you get it. Now, it is a legendary, of course, so it's going to be hard to get, so I suggest that you do a little bit of grinding before spinning, because you're going to need all the money you can get. That's it for today's video. Subscribe, like if you enjoyed, and turn on the bell notification so you don't...
Baby flatline, still time to do it too. Baby snack time, chow down to her. She's a hoarder of coal.